An unnamed gunslinging drifter finds himself near the US-Mexican border in a small town that is dominated by two opposing criminal families. First is the family of John Baxter, the so-called town sheriff, but he's a corrupt politician that only cares about greed. The second consists of the Rojos, three brothers that are eager for bloodshed. The man with no name befriends a barkeeper that urges him to leave town immediately. The entire town has been divided and torn apart by greed and vengeance. The only people that remain are either rich or they're dead. But this nameless stranger decides to use this rivalry to try to pit both families against each other and to profit from the both of them at the same time. The scheme is practically suicide, but if he's careful, utilizing his quick aim and his silver tongue, he might not only survive, he could come out of this with a fistful of dollars. I feel like I'm legally obligated to mention that this is practically a remake of Yojimbo, the samurai flick by Akira Kurosawa with a near-identical premise. You could actually go as far as to say that they stole the concept from Yojimbo. There was a copyright lawsuit, and Yojimbo's screenwriters won 15% of the worldwide gross and limited distribution rights, which was actually more profitable than their own film, and Kurosawa said it was a really good movie, but, it was his movie. This does share the same plot and structure, but A Fistful of Dollars is completely unique in its presentation and style, making this a completely different movie-watching experience. You might like one more than the other, but that doesn't make the other one obsolete. I think you could consider this a lightning in a bottle scenario. This was an Italian, German, Spanish production, and with Clint Eastwood speaking English, there was a massive language barrier. But as messy as everything was during production, it's incredible just how successful this movie was. This single-handedly invented the spaghetti western. It's the first one to have major international success. And it was the landmark film that countless movies would strive to replicate. But against all odds, what actually made this movie so successful? It turns out Sergio Leone was an extremely stylish director. Right from the start, the standout opening credits explode on screen like you're watching a Bond film, accompanied with the incredible score by Morricone. He would rather show than tell, so there's a lot of longer takes and extreme close-ups. He would use these drawn-out moments to build tension and just let you soak in the music and the atmosphere. The characters and the dialogue all work out fine, but it's the silent moments that really stand out. Also, every decision that Clint Eastwood made about his character turned out, well, not only great, but iconic. He's a man that holds all of his cards close to his chest. He's soft-spoken, he's got a will of iron, and up until a certain point, you'd probably be justified assuming he's just a risk-taking swindler who's only in it for himself. It isn't until later on in the movie that he not only risks his life for this helpless family, but he also gives them the huge wad of cash that he'd been piling up. You might have thought that he was perfect for this town, that he was greedy and dangerous, but no, he's just dangerous. He clearly has a sense of honor, but he isn't afraid to fight dirty, and the latter can be said about the villains in this movie. These guys are morally bankrupt, slaughtering unsuspecting victims by ambush. There's a lot of corpses in this movie, but most of the violence shows people flipping off their horses or slumping over on the ground. It's ruthlessly violent, but there's very little in terms of actual gore. The most blood you'll see in this movie comes from Clint Eastwood himself, when he's captured and tortured when his ulterior motives come into light. He's beaten to a bloody pulp, and it's hard to believe he'll wind up surviving all this. But using some quick wit, he's able to escape, to lie low and heal in time for the final showdown. He shows up at the very end to save his friend from the last remaining gang members, and, again, using his brains, he comes up with a plan to shield himself by strapping some armor to his chest. It's pretty much the opposite of a bulletproof plan, it's actually a bullet-filled plan. But it all makes sense because they show earlier that Ramon always shoots for the heart, and it shows him practicing on a suit of armor, and that the bullets don't ever fully penetrate it. It's clever, it works out, but it is a little silly with it being such a huge risk. He was really gambling on that bit of knowledge that Ramon likes to shoot for the heart, and he just had to hope that the other gang members were going to stand back and watch. But when the dust has settled, A Fistful of Dollars is a triumph. It's fun as all hell, and it's visually appealing, although the dubbing can get a little awkward from time to time. The movie isn't hard to keep up with, but it can get a little confusing at moments if you don't pick up on small pieces of information. If you're paying attention, which you should be, you'll get the gist of it, but it's never going to step back and explain itself, and it's not going to hold your hand. I like the plot, and I like the characters, for the most part. But with that being said, I do think that A Fistful of Dollars is probably my least favorite of the trilogy. And that's not an attack on the movie, not at all. It's really just a testament to how incredible these movies are. They all have the same masterful direction and style, but I find myself way more invested in the other two. As for this one, it's a great watch, but I'm really here for the visuals, the music, the tone, and for Clint Eastwood's performance. But most of these characters I just really don't care about. And maybe you're really not supposed to. But I do care about this movie. It was the first of its kind, and it certainly wouldn't be the last.